Well, welcome to your daily dose of salt and light with myself, Nadine Ness. Today, we're going to be covering mostly three topics. I have a few other videos that are comical or feel good videos that I'm going to play at the end. And so, first thing I'm going to cover is the US Canada border. What's really the problem that's pushing Trump to do the tariffs? If it's in fact border security, why is he considering Canada a threat to border security for the US? I'm going to talk about that a little bit, cover a little bit of what I've seen happening. I've talked about this before, so I won't delve into all of it, just kind of the newer stuff. And I don't want every episode to be a repeat, so that's why I'm just going to cover the new stuff. If you haven't seen the other episodes, just look up immigration. I've talked about it before. And then I'm going to cover Mark Carney and Chrystia Freeland's campaign launch, just what I'm noticing. There is a bit of comedy to it. I'm going to try to make it more fun and comical because that's what I think it is. But and then I'm also going to cover the TikTok ban. So a little bit of what I've noticed. So there's a video that I watched that gave a perspective. I wish I could play it, but the guy just swears way too much. And I don't want that on my show. I almost want to message him and say, can you tone down the swearing just so I can feature your stuff on my show? But yeah, so I'm going to be covering that. I might just cover his message on what he brought light to during the episode. So yeah, the first thing that I'll talk about is basically what's being announced in order to deal with the border security. Basically, the federal government announced a bunch of money. The provinces have announced a bunch of different resources. Saskatchewan yesterday announced, was it yesterday or the day before? I played it yesterday's episode. Announced a more resources to protect the border. But I don't think they get the point. The reason the Canadian-US border it is an issue for Trump, it's not because we need to protect people from coming in to Canada from the US. That's not what they're concerned about. It's who Canada is allowing in. And they're not allowing them in through the US border. They're doing so through the air, through the sea. And I think they're missing the whole point. We've allowed too many people to come in. Oh, that's funny. Someone doesn't like. Okay, Freedom Warrior said swearing is part of being Canadian with emotion. It's good. You know what? It's great for you, but my show is called Your Daily Dose of Salt and Light, and as a Christian, we are commanded not to swear. So I need this show to reflect my faith. So that's why I don't allow that. It's very rare. It slips out sometimes. I used to swear like a sailor, but it's very rare that you will hear me swear. And with that, I don't like to put content on here that is full of swears. So if you swear in the comments, I will not be featuring your comments. So you still have freedom of speech to do it wherever you want, just not on my show. So, but yeah. So anyways, I'm going to talk a bit about what that was announced. And what kind of made me want to bring this subject to the forefront is this tweet right here. So Zachary Tisdale said, Black Hawk helicopters patrolling the border doesn't matter when the government lets in thousands of Gazan refugees, most of whom still support Hamas terrorists, and starts handing out money. The Americans are correct. Canada has become a national security issue for them. And it's not just Gazans. You can use that with many of the refugees we've allowed in from war-torn country. And it's just common sense. It's going to be a lot harder to do a background check for when you're bringing in someone from a country that is war-torn. It's not like there's documentation they can go and find all the information on that person in those countries. And the fact is, you can't do a full background check on it to assure that they're not extreme terrorism if if you're bringing them in from countries like that, the information is just not available for them to do that. And I remember when, and this is just common sense. It's not a targeting. It's like that in any war-torn countries. When I applied for the RCMP, or when you work for the federal government, a background check needs to be done. When you're coming from another country that doesn't keep the type of records we do in Canada or in the US or a first world country, you're less likely to have the information that is required to be able to do a proper analysis. And I remember, like, even as an RCMP officer, I had to do full on background check. Like, you know what they did? They even went to like the school that I grew up in and talked to some of the teachers. What was Nadine like? Like, they went full on detailed background check. They talked to some of the neighbors. And I mean, that's for the highest security clearance. Obviously, it's very different when it's just allowing someone to come in. But when it comes to even at that level, it's not like that anyone can go out there and do any type of security clearance. What documents are they going to grab if the places that hold the documents are all blown up to pieces? So just common sense alone identifies that there's a higher risk when you're bringing in refugees from a third world country, war-torn country. There's a higher risk of bringing in extremism. And we've seen that happen over and over in Canada in the last few years. So, and just by people being caught with terrorism plan. And there was just one not that long ago where they were planning a big terrorist attack in New York, and they were caught coming from Canada. So, and I do believe there is such a thing as a breeding ground. Like, Canada has almost become a breeding ground for terrorism too. Some of it, they're not trained on it there. It's actually happening here, right here in Canada. And there's been multiple reports on that. And so he makes a very good point. And there's many reports in the last few years that prove that point. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that information. So we're they, this would they've been coming in for a while now, but it's just coming out this week that Trudeau Liberal Immigration Minister Mark Miller announced that taxpayers will be funding $3,000 direct payments to every adult refugee brought into Canada from Gaza, along with $1,500 for every Gazan child brought into the country. Now, BlackRock report that came from Canada Proud. Oh, where is the BlackRock report? Give me a second. I don't want to move ahead too many. Oh, here it is. BlackRock report says feds approved 3,000 tax-free grants to Gazan refugees in Canada, plus $1,500 plus per child, plus free healthcare. There was also another report that I saw. They also get free applications for student visas as well as work permit. I mean, I agree with that part. The whole, if you're going to come into Canada, we're not just going to pay for you forever. That you should be producing. To the US when it comes to the people that we're allowing in. But there's also another threat that has been very real. And this was brought to my attention by one of my followers just recently about the amount of massive high level production of drugs that is in Canada that are producing cocaine, fentanyl, all sorts of things, and then pushing it into the US through the border. Now, there was a report last week. I'm going to read it to you guys. The Toronto Sun article begins with the phrase, "Yet another Canadian trucker." Oh, I'll show you guys the article, because this talks about the perception that they're trying to push. Canadian trucker nabbed in 32 million cocaine busts in Arizona. Oh, they've changed the name of it because that's not what the title was. Yet another Canadian trucker. Then proceeds to cite four other individuals with the surname Singh who were busted for trafficking narcotics. Armajit Singh, Sukraj Singh, Gagandeep Singh, Jasbir Singh, Arshdeep Singh. And so it's 500,000 pounds of cocaine, 370 pounds of cocaine, 661 pounds of cocaine, 132 pounds of cocaine, 600 pounds of suspected heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamines. I always have a hard time saying that pronunciation. And then the concerning part is the fact that Sikh political leadership in Canada also has family members involved in narcotic trafficking. So, yeah, the situation within the community is dire. So he's, I think this is Mocha. I think he's been bringing awareness to a lot of that problem that is seen mostly in BC in a specific community, and that's like a real thing. It has been happening. It has become a problem. But he was bringing attention to what they were titling it. Anytime you see kind of mainstream media um, being talked about of things, they always want to like find their narrative, but basically saying Canadian trucker, almost like relating it to like yet another Canadian trucker, like almost relating it to the trucker convoy. Not I'm not saying that's for sure what they're trying to do. It's just your subconscious mind of the majority of Canadian would go there and they know that. So why even use that title? But yeah, so that's all the drugs. I wonder why they have 5 names, all different amounts of, was it more than one truck? That's what I'm curious about. Let's click on the article, see if I can click on it. See if I can move it a bit. $32 million cocaine bust. That is insane. Yeah, that's how they started. Yet another Canadian trucker has been pinched. Interesting. So Arizona state troopers pulled over a semi-truck on Monday, Interstate 40 near Hallbrook, just west of the Petrified Forest National Park. Upon inspection, troopers allegedly discovered 550 pounds of cocaine. Officers said that a 31-year-old driver, Armajit Singh Matharu, was suspected of showing multiple signs of criminal activity. The cocaine was stashed behind a load of produce in the rear of the Volvo tractor trailer that Matharu was driving. So the cocaine was being smuggled from Los Angeles and Salina, California, with its ultimate destination being the streets of Canada. Oh, so why would they go through Arizona? Maybe that's where they needed to pick up their load. So they probably went from California, got that, pick up the produce in Arizona. The driver, believed to be from the GTA, was arrested and caged in Navarro County Jail. He faces a slew of charges, including possession and transportation of narcotic. Okay, so what he's talking about, the other 4 would be from other instances, different arrests, different. So this one is just one of the 5. American law enforcement have busted numerous Canadian truckers, including many from the GTA, in drug smuggling schemes. In December, cops were tipped off about a load of cocaine being transported in a semi-tractor trailer destined for Canada. So these were coming from the US into Canada. Very different. So, okay, so the 5 are all different instances where this has happened. Interesting. So it's not Canada to the US, it's US to Canada. How much of that is not getting caught though at the border because we don't have a very high level of border security? Another tweet I want to bring to your attention is and I've showcased this before. Uh, I don't know who Willow Jack is. Willow Jack says, "Hi, mom." I'm not. I'm not your mom. Who is that? Freedom Warrior says, "Funny that name saying a Muslim drivers." I don't know if that means Muslim. They could be Sikh. I think it's more a Sikh. A lot of people confuse the two. I'm pretty sure it's Sikh, so it's completely different than Muslim. They have different, very different beliefs, and it's. I asked before what is Sikh faith, and there are like extremism in the Sikh faith too. Like there was the airplane that was shot down or bombed or exploded, and I get distracted sometimes by the comments. Kim says, same with containers by train and ship, that the majority are not inspected. No, they're not. Like, even just think times that you have crossed the border. I have crossed the border before, not asked many questions, but maybe I just don't look suspicious enough. My husband kind of does, though. But he's the random bag check guy. Every time we fly anywhere, they always randomly pick my husband as the bag check guy. So like where they check your bags. So we always joke that he looks like a drug dealer because he always gets picked. But yeah, it's true. I'm curious as to if how many they let through that doesn't get checked and what the criterias are to check them. I personally think we need to up our game when it comes to that, but next tweet. So Pierre Polyev has been talking about a lot about the immigration problem that we have. He's talked about it on radio shows and stuff. I've showcased some of it, but right now he's addressing a specific sector of the immigration problem that we have. The NDP liberals have wrecked our immigration system. Nearly 50,000 international students with study permits never showed up at their college or universities. So where are they? Where are they? What are they doing here? Time to fire this incompetent NDP liberal government. So it was a report that showed that 50,000 foreign student never showed up at schools. And there was also been a lot of talk too about schools that were not actual schools. They were just operating as a front to be able to bring foreign students in, but and basically taking money from them too. So it was like a big scam operation. So that was kind of disclosed last year, but this is just showing how many have come. So they'll apply for foreign students program, but then not actually show up. They'll go work or do other things. I'm curious to know though if a foreign student also gets an opportunity to work when they're in Canada. I'm just gonna ask ChatGPT. I gotta type it because the mic, I can't use my mic to do it. Who I'm just gonna say Ken instead. Let's see what it says. Okay, so interesting. Yes, international students who come to Canada on a valid study permit are allowed to work under certain conditions. Here's the overview. So they can do on campus work without needing a separate work permit. International students can also work off campus without a separate work permit under these conditions. They have a valid study permit with a condition allowing off campus work. They are full time students at a distance learning, DLI, I think, distant learning. They are enrolled in a program that's at least 6 months long and leads to a degree, diploma, or certificate. They can work up to 20 hours per week during regular academic sessions and full time during scheduled breaks. If a study program includes a mandatory work component, i.e., like a co op or an internship, student needs a co op work permit in addition to their study work permit. International students can apply for a post-graduation work permit after completing their studies at an eligible institution. This allows them to work full-time in Canada for a duration equal to their study program, up to a maximum of 3 years. Interesting. I didn't know they could. I thought they couldn't. So, if that's how it is now, how do you fix that? Well, I think you'd have to change some of the criteria so we don't have like this being taken advantage of, because that's clearly what's happening. I wonder what's happened to the 50,000 foreign students that just didn't show up. But anyways, it identifies a problem. I'm hoping that that's something if Pierre Polyev gets elected in, will be willing to address. What's the next? Okay, so switch gears. This is the funny part. So this is Mark Carney post saying I'm in, as in he's in the race to lead the Liberal Party of Canada. So the funny part is this is his new logo. So this is his logo for his entire campaign. This company Met Credit, I'll open it bigger. Here you go. Met Credit. They I'll read the description because this is so funny. It's such a funny coincidence. So Canada's debt recovery professionals, helping you get paid so you can get back to your business. Know us for when you need us. So basically they help people who are going bankrupt. And that's the difference in the logo. The M is just a little bit wider, but it's the exact same thing. Anyways, they write, that's a beautiful logo, Mark, but we're apolitical. And Brian Sommerfeld must be like the owner of the company. And this was my response. I think it fits because you're going to be helping people he puts in the situation to help. He's basically telling the world if he gets elected, they'll need you. It was so ironic and so funny. I just had to share that. So for people who don't know who Mark Carney is, he has quite an extensive background, but he's failed at economics in everything he's gotten involved in. So he was recently in charge of the Bank of England, which just printed money and ended up being in the same situation we are in when it comes to inflation. He's also behind putting all the DEI policies, like all the DEI policies you're seeing in big companies. He was behind pushing that at the bank level so that it would force companies to implement it. So anyways, people say, I think some people are saying, I think he'd be better than Trudeau. He was behind Trudeau's woke policy. He was behind pushing for them. He's actually more extreme than Trudeau. But people just don't know it because they don't know Mark Carney. So it's going to be very important for people like us to spread and show Canadians, no, this is just Trudeau 2.0, even worse, I think, because he's actually smarter than Trudeau. So I think he'll be able to manipulate and fool people a lot better than Trudeau can. Trudeau could hide it a bit at first, but then people eventually saw through him. So it's going to be interesting. Next one. Oh, wait. that's not the subject. That's for, I don't have it in the proper order. Here you go.
Christia.
So maybe I'll play the video up top here so you guys can listen to it. I haven't listened to it yet, so I'm listening to it for the first time with you guys here.
My side for close to 10 years.
I just gotta switch screens. Let me know if my sound is not working properly. If there's scratching is happening again. I still don't know what's causing it. So, okay. So this video is attached to a tweet that said Freeland hiked the carbon tax 167% as Trudeau's liberal finance minister. She supported quadrupling the tax on gas, heat, and groceries to 0.61 cents a liter. She's just like Trudeau.
Christia has been by my side for close to 10 years now. She has been an incredible political partner through just about everything we have done as a government and as a party over the past decade.
The Prime Minister has my full support. The Prime Minister has my full support. All of us here have tremendous confidence in the Prime Minister. We have confidence in him as the leader of our government, as the Prime Minister of Canada, and we have confidence in him as our party's leader, as the guy who is going to lead us into the next election.
In regards to Christia, she has been a close friend and ally and partner in doing really big things for Canada and will continue to be. I have full confidence in her abilities and on the work we're going to be doing together.
I like that they're showing how much the same they are. There's another one about Carney too. It's not as long, so I'll show you guys the tweet that goes with it. Carbon tax Carney, the guy who supported Trudeau's agenda to quadruple the carbon tax to 61 cents a liter on your gas, heat, and groceries. He's just like Justin Trudeau. So I imagine it's going to be a very similar video to here. Let's put it up top to the one we just watched. It's only 30 seconds long. So
from Europe.
Here you go. I just got to switch it up.
Mark Carney is back from Europe.
Speaking as a European,
to continue what Justin Trudeau started.
A steady increase in the price of carbon. Carbon prices have been applied sparingly. They've been set far too low.
He even called Trudeau's carbon tax a model for others. So no matter what he calls it,
effectively a shadow carbon price or price on pollution,
you're going to keep paying.
In some form of carbon tax.
Carbon tax Carney. He's just like Justin.
You sneaky.
Mark Carney is back.
He also really admires Greta. I saw videos of that, how he was raving about her. He believes like extreme woke ideology. And to be honest, if he's able to hoodwinkle Canadians and fool them, and he somehow was to win, I think we would see the economic downfall of Canada beyond repair. The same way we would think, oh, if Trudeau was to keep being in power, Canada would just fall apart. I think it would be a lot worse under Mark Carney. There's a few other people who are running, but I don't think they're like any heavyweight to the point where I should consider like talking about them, because I don't think they're going to be gaining enough momentum to make a difference to actually win. I would rather see someone else. I think Gould, is it Karina or Katrina? Karine, I can't remember her name. Gould is one of the one, and someone who doesn't speak French, so I don't think he'll have a chance in winning. Hitchhiker says, I call him Carbon Tax King Carnage. That's actually quite funny. Debbie says, nice to see you again. Nice to see you too, Debbie. Here. Shauna says sound is good. Good. I'm glad it's not doing the problem that it had before. Next. Oh, this is funny. So I've talked about Andrew Lawton before. I've met him in person. I've seen him speak. Andrew Lawton is an extremely funny person. He's a really good speaker. But anyways, he often will do like tweets, little jigs or hit. But anyways, this tweet made me laugh out loud. So he says Mark Carney's campaign has just released its new logo. So because Mark Carney basically did the same logo as a company that already exists, this is this is Andrew's tweet. I'm curious as to. Oh, I didn't retweet it yet. I'm gonna retweet it because I find that funny. Anyways, I thought that was hilarious. So that's Mark Carney's new logo. Oh, that made me laugh. I hope it made you laugh too. Okay, so I didn't announce that I was going to talk about this. It's Karina Gould. Thank you, Hitchhiker. I couldn't remember if it was Karina or Katrina or. I didn't talk about this in the description of the show, and I haven't seen the video, but I want to share my opinion on this because this sounds no different than what the Liberals are doing, have done. So Doug Ford just announced Ontario's taxpayer rebate checks are on the way starting today. Over the next month, taxpayers will receive a $200 rebate in the mail with another $200 for each child to spend on everyday essential. We're helping you keep more of what is yours. So basically, people are getting back a rebate for their they're getting money. But I will say this is different than some of the other stuff because this is directly affecting people who pay taxes. And because taxes are going to be due soon and people are going to have to pay it at the end of, I think it's February, right? March 31st is the date. February is usually when you get your statements. So I hadn't read the whole thing. So my opinion has changed slightly on it. But I'll see how long the video is. 47 seconds. Okay, I'll play it up here. And then I'll share my thoughts after.
Checks are in the mail.
Okay.
Good news for Ontario families. Starting today, Ontario's taxpayer rebate checks are in the mail. Over the next month, families will receive their checks, helping to provide much needed relief from the high cost of the federal carbon tax and interest rates. Eligible taxpayers will receive a $200 check with an extra $200 for each child under the age of 18. That means a family of 5 will receive $1,000 to spend on whatever you need most, like groceries, gas, repairs, and everyday essentials. This is one more way we're helping you keep more of what's yours and putting your money back in your pocket.
So the comments on this, I'll read to you some of the comment. Let the vote buying begin. Zach says, stop taking that money in the first place, Doug. Someone said, learn that from your hero, Justina Trudeau, and freebasing Freeland. Dan says, if you had a brain, you'd reduce spending, then reduce taxes. And then he insults, so I won't read that out. Someone says, courtesy of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and BC equalization payment. And that's the thing. Freedom Warrior says, paying you with your own money, tax bribes. And then he or she, I don't know if you're a guy or girl, you can tell me so I don't get it wrong every episode. The people that are getting rebates are not the ones paying the taxes usually. Yes, usually that's the case. That's what it was like with the GST, but I don't know if that's the case with this one. But did you realize when he was announcing it, he says those who qualify? I'm just trying to find it. eligible taxpayers will receive a $200 check. I'm just going to just search quickly here. What? Oh, the ChatGPT won't know because it's not up to date. I'll just Google it. I know everyone's going to say, don't use Google. I don't have the time to use something else. Let's read. What are the eligibility criteria for the Ontario tax rebate? I don't know if it's been announced yet. Okay, so these are the criteria, eligibility. Here, I'll share this screen with you guys. Well, you can't see it that way. I'll just share this. You have to be 18 years or older at the end of 2023. Is this an old one? I'm just trying to find when this updated, January 17th. No, this is it. Resident of Ontario on December 31st, 2023 filed their 2023 income tax and benefit return by December 31st, 2024 and not bankrupt or incarcerated in 2024. So I don't see anything about how much money they make. So I actually prefer something like this if they're going to try to help reduce the tax burden on Canadians or on Ontario people. I prefer something like this than what we've seen kind of with the GST. It was specific people under a certain income bracket. So it wasn't just all people in general. So I prefer seeing something like this because it's more fairer when it comes to doing a tax break. It's almost like it gives a break to just basically anyone who's paid taxes versus taking from people who pay taxes and give it to people who don't, which is usually what you see on the Liberal side. So I was going to accuse him of being just like a Liberal, but it's slightly different in that particular situation. So it is reducing the tax burden in a way because it's anyone who's paid taxes. So anyways, but it's interesting to see the comments from conservatives because it seems to be very much conservative that are responding. Another comment is, wow, all 200, 120 in gas due to carbon tax and 80 left for a swear word, bread. Really? Come on, Doug. Fight these liberal something with push for meaningful. Okay, I got to read before I read out loud because a lot of these have not good words in it. Freedom's probably laughing right now. Just say it, Nadine. Okay. Hitchhiker says, did I read this already? Yes. I agree. That's a good point. Hitchhiker says rebates are stupid. Lower the tax rate and save all the costs it takes to administer a rebate check in the first place. Yes, because it's going to take a lot of time and resources to give out the check. So why not just reduce it for 2020? That would be a much better way of doing this. For 2025, give a $200 rebate to anyone who does their income tax. That would make more sense. But no, it doesn't. See, the problem is it doesn't look like they're doing you a favor in that case. You get a physical check from them. It's actually a psychological method that politicians will use to try to make you feel like you owe them. It's called reciprocity. So it's a classic thing used in any type of fundraising, any type of things involving where you want somebody to react a certain way, whether it's your support, you to volunteer your time, or you to vote for them. So when I've been taught about this, I just don't implement it. I try not to as much as I can. But if you have an event and you have people who come, if you give them something for free, they're more likely to donate towards your cause. So all of these big like fundraiser events will always do that. They'll give things for free because it's human nature to want to give back when you're given something, especially if it's for free. So I think they're using that classic technique as politicians to try to make you feel like you need to vote for them because they've given you something for free, right? But really, if you do it the other way around, if you just reduce the tax burden when they file their income tax, you don't feel like you got something for free. You just will feel like you've given them less, which doesn't activate the psychological component of reciprocity. This is what I see this as. And that's what every Canadian should see it as, but that's just not the case. Most Canadians don't even know about that. Next subject. Oh, I think I guess I'm going back. I should have had this with the Freeland. I kind of forgot. So Melissa, if you don't follow Melissa, I highly recommend you do. She posted, Chrystia Freeland just scrubbed her Instagram account clean. Everything gone except her Liberal leadership campaign announcement. So all her old posts are gone except that. So they're going to try very hard. Both Chrystia Freeland and Mark Carney are going to try very hard to distance themselves from Trudeau and the policies that they were a part in implementing, so that Canadians can have a look at them and think, oh, they're different. Oh, they're someone new. So maybe I will support them. And I think Chrystia Freeland is a perfect example of that. I think it's going to be so important that Conservatives, even during the leadership race, keeps posting who they really are, even not just after they pick who it is. Don't just zone in. I think they should put, and they're doing that, which is really good. They're doing a good job at that. And I think they need to keep doing that now, because by the time the election comes, it might be 2, 3, 4 months from now. That won't be the time. It'll be too late. More Canadians need to know who these people are now, so that whoever wins, there'll already be an advantage into educating Canadian as to the reality of these people. They're no different than Justin Trudeau, which is true. I haven't seen, maybe the only one that I would consider different than Justin Trudeau would be the guy who's running, who can't speak French and has a very strong accent in English too. That's the only one. I haven't seen like a whole lot of links to Trudeau, but maybe he has. I just haven't seen it because nobody really knows who he is. So, but other than that, it's just the same as Trudeau. And it's so important that they paint that picture, because that's the reality. They're going to try to circumvent that, hide that, reinvent themselves as like, and you saw that last week. Mark Carney was trying to reinvent himself as an outsider. I'm not your typical government person. I'm an outsider. No. If you look at all the work he's done, he's right along the boards that are very much politically influencing. He's with the World Economic Forum. He's all involved in that. So thank you, Debbie. Debbie says, I have to go. Love your comments, and you always show actual posts of the talking person. So probably, I mean, the videos. I think it's important that people get to see the different things that are happening, more than just me talking about it. Okay, so I want to show another video, and then I want to share some strong feelings. Strong feelings about this. Sorry, I love making a Rachel Gilmore impression. So this is Scott Moe. I had some strong words about him yesterday. I think he's lost. He doesn't have a backbone. I don't know if he ever had one, but in this video, it looks like he did. So that's the one I'm going to show here.
That threatens the livelihood of every farmer, every miner, every worker in the energy sector. I will fight for this province. I will fight for our economy to ensure that we do not have a carbon tax. And Justin Trudeau, if you're wondering how far I will go, just watch me.
So this wasn't recent. This was 8 years ago. So Scott Moe posted this video. 8 years ago, Saskatchewan stood alone against the Liberal carbon tax. All other provinces supported it. Since then, almost every other province has changed its position and now opposes the carbon tax. Where was that Scott Moe during COVID? Where was the Scott Moe who was standing up against Ottawa? Where is he now? Like, I want to send him that video and say, can you do this now with the whole tariff thing? This is what he needs to do. But no, he's just going right along, backstabbing Danielle Smith in the back, going right along with Trudeau signing those agreements, knowing Saskatchewan's going to be greater affected than many of the other provinces, along with Alberta, because of our natural resources, our oil and gas, and our exports. We have bigger exports coming out of Saskatchewan than many of the other provinces that go directly to the US. Where is he now? And I saw this video and I said, great. It's great that you're promoting that now, but can you be that now? Like, we don't have a choice. You're our premier. You're the one that's representing us in Ottawa in these meetings with Trudeau. Can you be this now? That's what we want. That's what we need. But you're not doing that. So, anyways, I wanted to show that there was a point in time where he had a backbone. Just not today, not during COVID. I don't know if that Scott Moe still exists, but I would like to see that. Next topic. Oh, it's a video. Yeah, I don't like showing Benny Johnson. My level of respect for him has gone down lately because he's been platforming Andrew Tate, and not just platforming him. I'm okay if people interview Tate, but they should be asking him hard questions, pointing out facts when he's lying, and they haven't been doing that.
Uphold the law that was
over him, which I find it so atrocious. It's going to backfire. But here's the video he shared. It's a news clip.
The Supreme Court upholds the law that was passed by Congress in a bipartisan manner, signed into law by Joe Biden last April, to find a new buyer within 270 days. The Supreme Court has now ruled that that law stands. What happens to the app, however, is a wide open question.
And this has been a pretty momentous discussion. And in fact, we just heard from President-elect Trump through Truth Social that he spoke to President Xi this morning, of course, the president of China, which owns the TikTok app. And this did come up. We don't know what was discussed, but it did come up.
The Supreme Court.
So they mentioned something about buying.
Supreme Court has now ruled that that law stands. What happens to the app, however, find a new buyer within 270 days.
So they have to sell it within 270 days. There has been speculation of people who are looking to buy it. Here, let's just do a quick search. I'll just ask Grok, actually. Grok will know. If you guys know, feel free to say it. And you're beating me to the next part of the story, Hitch. Just hold on. I'm gonna get to the red book after. Who is offering to buy TikTok? There's been several. So Kevin O'Leary, that's the one. I just couldn't remember his name, from Shark Tank. He's also the one that's been going to Mar-a-Lago with Danielle Smith. He's also the one that's doing that big investment, $70 billion investment in Ottawa to create that data hub, that AI data processing hub. So Kevin Leary has talked about it. Recent posts and reports suggest he's nearing a deal for TikTok U.S. assets, emphasizing the need for Donald Trump's assistance to finalize the acquisition. This interest comes with the backdrop of a potential ban on January 19th, 2025. Frank McCourt, through his initiative Project Liberty, McCourt has made an official offer to buy TikTok, described as the people's bid for TikTok. This bid involves a consortium of investors, including Kevin O'Leary, focusing on user data ownership. What does that mean? Does that mean that whoever buys it would own all the data from the users, or that the user data would be owned by the users? I don't know. Here, I'll see. Oh, there's been a lot. Rumble, the channel where I'm live streaming one of these, although I never see the comments from Rumble. I don't know if anyone is watching on Rumble or if the comments can even show up. Let me see. I want to see if I might have to mute something. Here, I'll just mute it and see. One person is watching from Rumble. Wow, that's a lot of views. Yeah, I have 400, like, out of all the different streaming channel, but Rumble is just one of the 400. Rumble, you need to do better. Okay, the video sharing platform popular among conservatives, so that's Rumble, has publicly offered to join a consortium of acquire and operate TikTok outside of the US. Oracle and Walmart, previously in 2020, had mentioned. Microsoft has not recently in the forefront, but they've said they'd like to purchase it. No, there's another one. Steven Mnuchin, a former U.S. Treasury Secretary under President Trump, has been vocal about putting together investors group to purchase TikTok. He has not closed specifics. So it kind of seems to be very much linked to like Kevin O'Leary. So it's going to be interesting to see if there's going to be pressure put to make that happen. And now Rand Paul had some comments about this. Rand Paul is very much a libertarian. So Thomas Massey said, when TikTok goes dark, please remember I voted against the so-called TikTok ban because the legislation was overly broad and sets a dangerous precedent for censorship. And then Rand Paul said, same, millions of Americans express themselves on TikTok on a daily basis, and it's just wrong for the government to ban it. So they're kind of making their argument in the side of libertarianism and freedom, and I completely understand. But I have concerns, and I'm not saying I want to ban it, but I do see the value in getting an American company to be the one to oversee it and run it. And I'll tell you why. I shared my opinion on this, and I'm just going to see if I can find the tweet here because I just tweeted this morning. I just got to go to my profile to find it because it was a reply to a post by James Lindsay. Where is it? Okay. He said a couple tweets. Where's the other one? Oh no, I lost it. Give me a second. He said a couple tweets, so I'll first show the first one. He says the CCP is exploiting the anti-war right and its enormous overlap with the anti-Israel right and its enormous overlap with the woke right to try to split MAGA and push pro-CCP, pro-BRICS, pro-BRI propaganda. Lots of people we call influencers are shockingly on board. So that was one of the tweets. He's been talking about this a lot today. And James does that. He's often ahead of the curve when it comes to the issues that he's bringing to light and talking about. But people have to understand where his perspective comes from. So James Lindsay has studied Marxism, communism, any type of authoritarian, even socialistic, anything that goes away from liberty, goes away for libertarianism. He's studied all of it. And he's very well knowledge in every aspect of that all around the world. So when he starts seeing little warning flags of, hey, society is kind of starting to use these techniques, you start, like the woke right is a perfect example of that. He started pointing out that there's similar, and the woke right doesn't mean he's attacking the values that you hold. What he's bringing awareness to and attacking is the methods that are being used, and he's comparing it to the woke left. So the methods would be the exact same, even though your motivation behind it are completely different than the woke left. And that's what he's been bringing awareness to, is like you're using woke left methods for your right leaning beliefs. And he shows examples of that, and it's very much accurate. So this is just another one of those avenues that he's bringing light to. Hey, there is something that's happening, and then he shows examples of that. So, and that's where I'm going to go and find that other comment that he wrote. So I'm just going to find it through my response to him, because you'll recognize some of this has been happening. Some of you have probably been online. You might have witnessed some of this, and you might not even recognize how you're being influenced as well into that specific direction. So, and then I'm going to explain what I've been witnessing. So when I evaluate what's going on, what I'm seeing, I would consider myself very much a critical thinker. And I understand I can be fooled from either side. I have been fooled from either side. I used to be on the left. I used to be brainwashed by mainstream media, believe everything they said. That's why I hated Trump. I hated Harper. I still have some reservation around Harper. I don't think he was perfect either. But I remember being fooled. And then when I go and look at some of the stuff, like when I'm going into one direction, I am considered right leaning now. I'm more of a libertarian mindset, I guess, if we were to exactly explain my political views. But when I see some of the stuff coming from the right side, I'm like, wait a minute, that looks very similar to how I used to be brainwashed before. Why are they using the same techniques here? So it makes me pause, because I remember that time. So I start looking, okay, why is this happening? So this is the comment that he's been talking about. I had heard about the anti-Israel pro-CCP pipeline, but I didn't realize it was this big a deal or a thing with so many influencers in conservative spaces. So what he's talking about is this whole TikTok ban, and where some of the conservative voices have been pushing people to the red book. And I'll bring light to that in just a second. So right now he's talking about this pull from TikTok. Okay, well, if we're not going to have TikTok, we're going to have the Red Book. The Red Book is a new app that is a Chinese app. It's China owned. So similar to TikTok, it's China owned. I'll see if I have it in one of the videos here. The guy that's talking about it, I'll show it to you instead. If you want to see the full video, I highly recommend you follow Misfit Patriot. There's just too many swear words in it, so I can't feature it. But he's kind of making fun of these conservative accounts that are telling people go to this new app. So it's called the Red Book. But it's not called that. You can't, if you can read Chinese, you would know it's called the Red Book. Now, what does that mean? That app is actually based on, and he goes on to explain it here. This is the Red Book. And what it is, it's Mao's little Red Book. so it's the book that kind of shows all of his ideology, how to implement I don't think it was Marxism. What was Mao? Was he a communist or socialist? Here, I'll play this part. Hopefully he won't swear. Oh, you guys can't hear it.
Homage to Mao Zedong.
Mao,
The communist
Communist Party. So Chinese Communist Party. The Red Note. Okay, thank you, Belle. Belle says it's not called the Red Book, it's called the Red Note. So it's an homage to this guy who's killed millions and millions.
dictator
He's the Chinese
who killed
15 to 55 million deaths is the estimate of how many people he killed. And you see that Marxism, communism ideology kind of being pushed right now, even from the right. Like some of the ideas on certain things, and things when you look at fascism too. Fascism would be what would be considered for the right. That would be like Hitler. A lot of these techniques that they use is very much all around how to manipulate, how to use psychology to fool people to go in the direction you want to go with. And so anyways, that's what this new app is. And now you have China who's going to be controlling that. And then you have these conservative voices who are pushing everyone to China. So conservative voice, it's specific. I would call them the woke right. So that would be like, what's it? Nick Fuentes would be one of them. Candace Owens kind of seems to be going in that direction and using similar techniques as well. Some of the other ones as well are going in that direction. So they're the ones who are all promoting it. So basically, if you want to know who's promoting it, find any conservative voice who's extremely anti-Jew and they're promoting it. So, and this is why I wrote this comment. I just got to find it again. On James Lindsay's. This is my thoughts and where I think this is leading. If you had a country like China who wants to have an advantage over the US, this is actually a war technique or a war strategy that's been in their books for a long time. If you want to attack another country, you want to destabilize it first. So just think about the US. What has been happening with causing so much division. You'll have like the woke ideology that's kind of been implemented in all the schools. You'll have like the gender ideology that's being pushed to the max. LGBTQ is being pushed. So think about TikTok and what kind of content always goes viral. What kind of content gets pushed to the top. And it's very easy to manipulate algorithm. We saw that during COVID. We saw that even on Facebook. If you shared conservative type values, right-leaning values, your material would be not just demonetized, but the algorithm would push it to the bottom of the barrel. So not many people would see it. TikTok can do the exact same thing. So just keep that in the back of your mind. If it's run by the Communist Party of China, the CCP, what would that look like if they were to use that app to cause massive division, massive destruction, massive destabilization in the American population? It would look like exactly what we've been seeing in the last few years. So this is what James Lindsay is addressing, pro-CCP pipeline. But I didn't realize that it was this big a deal or a thing with so many influencers. So he's talking about them trying to push people to this red note in the and not only that, sorry, I'm going to finish my sentence. Sometimes I do that. In the apps, just basically switching conservatives there. I don't think TikTok's going to stay banned. I think somebody's going to buy it, and it's just going to speed up that buying process. I hope it's well managed where they protect freedom of speech. Right now it's not, though. There has been specific accounts that have been silenced and stuff. Not necessarily when they talk about like the really far right stuff, but like the middle ground conservatives, I've seen a lot of those accounts being targeted and silenced. Like if you have a middle ground message that's conservative middle ground, you seem to always be shut down. But like the specific ones like Ian Carroll never gets shut down. In fact, it just spreads and spreads and spreads. I know because I've seen all of his stuff on TikTok. So he's definitely not shadow banned. He might get like one video here and there where they might do that just to make it seem like, oh, we're trying to shadow ban him. But no, the fact that he's reached millions amounts of people that he has with like made up stuff. Yes, I'm going to say that a lot of his stuff is made up when you actually dig into it. He's selling a narrative, not just facts. Some of the stuff is very truthful when he talks about BlackRock and who owns everything. Super great information there, very truthful. But when he's painting a narrative, he wants you to believe a certain thing, like painting a narrative that 90% of Republicans, or not Republicans, of Congress is owned by Jews or manipulated or influenced, or basically that they bought them, and goes on to say how this organization funds certain donations. Like, it's such a small portion. If we're going to talk about who influences politicians, there are organizations that are much greater, much more effective. They're like a small glimpse of that. In fact, the Catholic Church probably has even more influence than the Jewish community, but you won't have people talk about that. So they want to paint a narrative, right? They'll say the Jews, see, these people are donating towards them, therefore the Jews owns all these politicians, but yet they won't talk about all the other people who are donating to them 20 times more money than this organization. Yeah, Jen, I've heard the same thing. But that's the same thing. That's not something you can verify, right? They'll say these hook lines and say they literally each have an APAC agent. I heard they don't. There might be people that they meet with once in a while, but the same way that they'll meet with any other lobby group. So in the US is very different than Canada. Politicians can get some funding or whatever, donations, political donations from companies, from entities. You had the Koch brothers that helped fund like $230 million to get conservative into government that wouldn't bring in a Canadian type of healthcare system, because they saw how much of a failure ours had been. And they're like, it needs to be different tiers. So those people went in and started lobbying. You'll have like any big entity that the government could influence and shut down at any point will be lobbying. Every big entity has actually people hired that's their job. They lobby elected officials. Now, and people can say, well, oh, it's because Jews run the world, or they want to paint that picture that Jews run the world, and that it's like this super nefarious thing. I'm going to give you a perspective for a second. When what happened during COVID, and I've talked about this, I've actually tweeted about this. When what happened during COVID, all the unvaccinated were treated like second-class citizens. All the unvaccinated were kept from going to restaurants, where many of them were fired, many of them lost their jobs, many of them were completely treated like trash. Now, what happened after COVID went away? All of those people remember what happened to us. And look, I'm not giving a comparison that what happened to us was the Holocaust. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just painting a small picture of what many of us felt. When COVID ended, my mindset, I want to make sure that never happens again. What do I need to do to make sure that never happens again? Well, we, for one, need to get more involved in politics. So even me, our organization did exactly that. We did a whole town hall tour across Saskatchewan, 18 town halls we did, to teach people how to get involved on boards, what nomination elections like. You can put your name and run as an MLA, because if you're an MLA in government, less likely if a pandemic comes that they would put the same implementation if a lot of us speak out. We told people to join board, buy memberships to the party in power, so that when we go to the AGM, we can say no to these encroachment, yes to freedom and liberty. So if we did that with the very little amount of persecution that we face compared to the Jewish people, Imagine how much they have done. They've been persecuted in every country that they've gone in. So their mindset is, if we don't get involved, this might happen again. And to be honest, with seeing what I've seen in the last few years, they have that justification to have that mindset. They do. And I'm going to keep talking about that because I see exactly what happened to us motivate us. I can see it motivating them. And right now, you're even seeing that justification, that motivation being justified, even with the hatred that they're facing right now. Like what's happening on college campus, where Jewish people who aren't even from Israel, who don't live in Israel, who's lived here their whole lives, being treated and hated just because of their faith or their ethnical background. So, okay, so this is what I wrote in that long explanation with what I wrote. It should not come as a shock considering TikTok is CCP owned. It has been manipulating the algorithm to brainwash the masses of the West. Just think about all the things that are trending on TikTok, both on the left and the right. It's all things to destroy society and its structures, which is true. It pushes you into one corner or the other. There's like no discussion in the middle. It's very much polarized. And you're seeing that too with other aspects as well of, sorry, I was reading it and I wasn't showing you guys. And Jedi Ghost Wisconsin's here. I don't know if you can see it, wrote something. I hadn't seen the response. You nailed it. It was one of the most effective and magnificent weapon system developed since 1945. Like, these are not secret techniques that foreign country uses to destabilize a nation. And I will also say Trump is using this a little bit as well. If we're honest, Trump is doing this a little bit with Canada. He's creating an environment where we become kind of destabilized. Someone talked about this in a space yesterday, and it made so much sense. I'd love to have him come on my show, but he says it looks like a hostile takeover. When a company wants to take over another company, they'll create destabilization within that company so that they're kind of turning on each other, turning against each other. And it becomes a really toxic environment to the point where the company starts falling apart. And then it's like prime for takeover. So it's prime for them to come in and take control of the company or of the country. And I see even that it's the art of the deal. So you can see comparison in the private sector versus public sector. And that's what I'm seeing happening with TikTok. Some of the stuff that I see like trending, I'm like, why is this trending? This should not be something that should be even significant in creating a trend, but yet it is. Why is it being pushed at the top of TikTok? And you go in and compare certain things with the numbers of comments versus the number of retweets. You're like, it doesn't match other trending thing. Why is this particular thing specifically trending? You're seeing that too. Sometimes I question that with X. So I have tweets that go viral and I'm like, that should not even be something that should be considered to go viral. Why is that message being pushed to the top? So I don't know. I don't know if the algorithm are just kind of soured or what. But next subject, where again, this is an example that I can use actually where people are being hoodwinked and manipulated. So a perfect example of that is the Tate brothers and some of the information that you're seeing from them. They constantly go viral on TikTok. Why? A lot of the stuff that they post is completely atrocious. And I know the majority of people don't agree with it, but why is it being pushed to the forefront? So there's a lot of really, really bad information about the Tate brothers online. I went and did some digging. Again, I'm a former police officer trained to profile sex offenders. So, and I'll be bluntly honest, a few months ago, I'm like, are they being political prisoners? Are they being targeted because they're conservative? Is that what's happening with this? And my mind went there first, because anytime you you've seen in the last few years the court system being politicized and going in after people who are conservatives to try to shut them down and silence them. You've seen that happen. So I thought my first mindset was like, is that what's happening to the Tates? Until I did some digging. And I've seen some of their stuff, their videos that they put out, but some of the other stuff that I've seen in the last few weeks, I'm like, oh yeah, there's definitely a case for human trafficking. All the receipts are there. It's all in the court documents. And what they've been doing to these women is just completely atrocious and awful. And I say women, some of them are children. Some of them are as young as 14, 15 years old. And that's starting to come out because you have people like Murdered by Crayons talking about it. I don't know who that person is behind that name, but they've been raising awareness, actually reading the court documents and trying to tell conservatives who are defending them, hey, you don't want to defend these people. They're really awful people. And they show how much they're lying. So one of the big lies that was being pushed, which I'm sure some of you have heard, that they got off on all of their charges. They're free to go. It was all made up. None of it had any grasp. All the evidence they have was thrown out because it was all fake. Like that's the narrative some are pushing, and it's not being challenged. That's not true. They were released from house arrest, turned into what was called a judicial control instead. But the courts actually appealed that decision and it was reversed today. So they are still on house arrest. Not only are they facing the charges that they were facing before, they didn't get dropped. There was some procedural errors that they're correcting. That's why the court case is just it's not being paused per se, but it's being reevaluated so that they can implement more new evidence. There's actually more charges coming out now. They're being charged with human trafficking of a child, which would be that Vivian, who was 15 years old. She's older now, but when it started, she was 15 years old. So that information is coming out. There's also women who have come forward out of the UK. So just so you guys know, the Tates were born in DC, so they are part American, but their parents were from the UK, so they have dual citizenship to the UK, and they were raised most of their lives in the UK, and so they have a lot of influence, a lot of entanglements in the UK, and that's where a lot of the times they go and find their worker girls in the UK, and they'll transport them to whatever country it is that they're in right now. I just can't remember. If someone in the comments knows, feel free to put it in the comments. Basically, they'll bring them there, and that's where they will work the girls because the rules there were a lot less stringent as they were in the UK. But however, there's been 4 victims that have come forward with very, very damning, that's a bad word, very, very strong evidence and testimony as well, backed up with evidence of conversations with the Tates. Some are messages that were left, things like that. So once they're done serving their time in whatever country they are in here, I just want to find out what country. It's not Morocco, but it sounds like that. In Romania. So they're currently in Romania. And once they're done all their charges, serving their time in Romania, they're going to be, they have started extradition or extraditement procedure. I don't know the proper term, to have them sent to the UK to be trialed and processed there for raping and these women, 4 of them so far. There might be more that's going to come forward. And then there's also the aspect that has to be considered, that it is a crime if you are an American and you go and have relations with, even if in that country the age of consent is lower, it is a crime to have sex with anyone who's under the age of 18 in another country. So there's also that aspect, since they were human trafficking and sexually abusing. Well, they're being accused of this, but at the same time, I've seen a lot of the evidence in the video, so they can try to come after me, but they'd have to prove that it's false. And from what I've seen, it's not. But they'd have to show that to counter anything. But there's also that aspect, if everything kind of falls down, let's say there's a war that happens in Romania and all of that falls down, they're still potentially liable in the US if they were to ever move to the US. So a lot of people don't know that in Canada we have those laws, and it's to protect victims of sexual abuse, more importantly children, in countries where the liberties of, I guess, the age of consent have been lowered. So you see a lot of American pedophiles go into countries like Thailand and stuff like that, where they have easier access to sexually abused children. Well, they put this law to protect children in those countries from pedophiles in the US. So Canada has the same thing. You can't just, and it's called, I've talked about this before. There's a specific term for it. Something tourism. I wonder when I start talking about this stuff if YouTube and stuff starts kind of shadow banning. But no, I'm still quite, I got 480 viewers, but it's sensitive topics, right? So, but yeah, so they're not innocent. They're not released. The charges haven't been dropped. They're still under house arrest. So it's just a lie. They keep pushing this lie. Like I could show you video after video where they're openly lying. They're serial liars. So I don't for a second believe basically what they're saying, just based on all the counter evidence to what they say, what is actually proof. And they're very good at lying. When I was reading his body language, and he's done it so much that he's countering some of the telltale sign of a liar. He's kind of not doing that where most people would. So, and that often when you can prove that something's directly a lie and their body language is not, it gives an indication that they've been doing this for a really long time. Like when I was taught to profile, that was one of the things that sex offenders were notorious for. So it was we were trained a lot on different ways of detecting dishonesty and lies, more towards their choice of words versus what we would see typically in an interview with a criminal, because sex offenders are often, they've made their whole life a lie, and they've become really good at being deceitful, really good at manipulating, and really good at lying. So we had to learn different techniques than most of what you would normally see. So they have that technique that we were trained to notice. So, but anyways, it's quite interesting to see. I'm still going to do a deep dive, but I just wanted to bring that up. It hasn't stopped. It hasn't gone away. They're still facing the trial. It's still going ahead. And then it's just a lot of misinformation. And I hate using that term, but that's actually what it is. It's actually false information they are pushing out to the masses. And a lot of people are believing it because they don't know any better. They haven't had the time to, or actually it might just not have come across their desk, the actual information that's true. So next subject, I wanted to this is an interesting, there's no sound, so they're the what's it called? Not the Starship. It is a Starship, I think. So yesterday there was another launch for the big Starship, whatever that's called. I think that's what it's called. And it was the same one where the oh, what's it called? I can't remember the name. Anyways, the part that I want to talk about is what I find really fascinating is how fast this thing was, how big and how fast this thing was coming back down to Earth. And Elon Musk, so basically what they shot this rocket, I think it's called the Starship, and then the base that is reusable detaches and the other part keeps going. And they were planning on doing a rotation. However, the other part that keeps going actually exploded yesterday into a million pieces. It didn't have anyone inside it. Elon Musk explained what had happened, and they've kind of they're going to correct some of that. But the base that sends it out into the space or into the atmosphere to do the turns around the Earth that they were testing, that base comes back down. And we saw a few months ago it landed back into the base that kind of shoots it out. So that I didn't realize at the speed that it was coming back down. So Elon Musk says atmospheric re-entry speed is more than twice as fast as a bullet from an assault rifle. And this is the largest flying object ever made. So that base that shoots it up is 33-story building high. It is absolutely massive. And that's coming down at the speed of twice as fast as a bullet. And not only does it have to come back down in rocket booster. Thank you, Freedom Warrior. If you guys see I'm struggling with a word, feel free to give me that word. English is my second language, so sometimes I will struggle with pronunciation and stuff like that, or remembering a word because I'm like working in 2 different languages. It's Starship. SS 1706 on the registry. So yeah, so it comes back down at twice the speed of a bullet, which is insane to me. That's absolutely insane. And then I'm just looking here. And then not only does it come back down right in the right spot, the base attaches it. I'm going to see if I have a video. Is this a video of it? Yeah.
Just like this silver flare coming back to the once again, we are standing by for attempting to catch the booster at the tower. This would be the second tower catch.
Booster landing burn. Seeing 13 engines.
Booster now hovering as it aligns with the tower for catch.
Booster coming in. Get ready for that boom, Kate.
Down to 3 engines.
This is the second time this.
Make it go ahead. Off the booster.
Pretty enormous feat, really, when you think about it. Okay, next subject. And I said this before on Twitter. I said John Featherman is the one that has surprised me the most from the Democrats. Anyways, I really respect that guy because he's not acting like all the other Democrats. Featherman's to be the first sitting Democratic U.S. Senator to visit Trump at Mar-a-Lago. I'm not just a senator for Democrats. I'm a senator for all Pennsylvanians. It's my job to find common ground and deliver results for everybody. And because nobody is my gatekeeper, I will meet with anyone to secure some wins, including President Trump. When I saw him kind of step outside the norm too was when, and I had a lot of respect for him for doing this, when all of the Democrats were being extremely anti-Jewish and pushing that rhetoric. He, at the time, this was shortly after October 7th, he has put pictures of every hostage taken all around his office. And he said he would not be removing the photos of the hostages until they are all returned home. So, and I know a lot of people were attacking him for that. So, and he's the guy, if you don't know who he is, he's the one that kind of dresses less professional, and there's like a dress code that was added. He was recently, I think it was on Joe Rogan, where he talked about that, why he dresses like that. He just doesn't like wearing clothes that aren't comfortable. He's not your typical politician. But anyways, I thought it was something that would be worth highlighting. Let's see what else I've got here. Oh, another thing that I wanted to bring to the attention. So they've been talking about this in the US in some of their committees. Billionaire George Soros really recently bought $200 plus radio station in 40 markets with 165 million listeners. Joe Biden's FCC fast-tracked the deal before the November election. Remember, this is when Democrats claim an oligarchy will form in Trump's America. So they're kind of comparing it to that. Anyways, I didn't know that, and I found that really interesting. The last video I'm going to share is a funny video. I'm just going to pull it up on my screen. It has nothing to do with politics or news.
Okay.
It's just a guy that's really, really happy and appears to be really, really fun. Here, I just got to get it up on the screen here.
It is
Here you go. Oh, not there. Here.
okay. We are going to try round 2. It is pretty nice out today. It's nice and sunny, but the wind chill is down to like -20. So I think it should go pretty fast.
I don't know if that's -20 in
Okay.
Canada or -20 in the US.
It's already starting to freeze. I think this is going to work.
I think this guy's a lot of fun. So he lays down with his...
I'm more worried about my phone dying than myself. It's definitely crispy.
He keeps spraying it with water.
Okay, well, that's the end of that. There's a little squirrel over there. He's just laughing at me. Imagine that. Okay, so let's slowly get up so I don't pass out. It worked! Perfect!
He has so much fun with it.
It worked! Okay, so there we have it. I love it. Okay.
To watch that and not laugh. It's like, I don't know if you guys remember that video of a guy who's like obsessed with locomotives and trains, and he's got like this fisheye camera and he just shows his excitement for the trains that he's seeing. I see this video very similar to that. There's so much negativity in the world, and I wanted to show you guys a little bit of light, a little bit of fun. But I thought that was hilarious. I don't know who this guy is. I'd like to find out who he is and follow his stuff. Like, does he do stuff like this all the time? Because like in a world that's so dark, it's just fun sometimes to see a bit of positivity and fun. And his laugh is so contagious. It just makes you smile, right? Anyways, I will end it with that today. I will be back on, is today Friday? Oh, not tomorrow. I will be back on Monday. So Monday, okay, I should be back on Monday. It's just going to depend because the inauguration is happening on Monday. I don't think many people will be watching the show. So I haven't kind of figured out if I'm going to be, here, let me see this. Monday, that's the 20th. I was potentially going to go, but after talking with my husband and stuff, we've kind of, I didn't get confirmation yet with the tickets. So I didn't end up booking the flights. If the tickets come in, I might be going on Monday to Trump's inauguration, but so far I don't have tickets. So I don't have the confirmation of them physically. So I don't know if I'll be going. I also have huge concerns as well with it being probably the biggest political target in the world in recent history. And I know I shouldn't be thinking like that, but if you're a praying person, I ask you to pray for Donald Trump and everyone who's going to be at the inauguration on Monday. So, oh, is the mic still making noise? I was told it was fine. Gosh darn it. Is it doing it now? Oh, no. Nobody told me until now. I wonder if it seems to be always when I open a new screen. Like when I had like ChatGPT onto the screen. It did that yesterday when I did ChatGPT. So I wonder if it's doing that, if it's just too much. You know what I might do this weekend? I have a MacBook Pro that I bought that's way faster than this tower. I might just switch everything to my MacBook Pro because I think that it might just be the processing that's too much for this computer. Because I have 4 screens going at once. I have like mics, I have cameras and stuff, and I think it might just be too much. I'll try seeing if that fixes it. The only reason I haven't switched to the MacBook yet is I was limited for screens. Like you can only put up to 3, I think. So, and I use 4. So maybe I'll see if I can figure something out for that. But thanks for letting me know. Yeah, Hitchhiker says you might be loading up your CPU. Like the tower that I have is like a gaming computer. Like I pay like $2,500 for it. So it's like a really high level one, but I guess it might still not be enough. But yeah, so Monday I may do an episode, but it's during the inauguration. So I don't really want to miss that. So I'll play it by ear for Monday because a lot of people will be paying attention to that and not the show. But I might still do one. Maybe I'll just show some of the stuff that's happening during the inauguration. On Tuesday, I have April Hutchinson coming. On Thursday, I have another guest speaker who's coming next Thursday. Kirk Lubimov. I've featured some of his stuff. He's from Calgary, so he's coming Thursday. On Friday is, oh, I'm having a brain fart. What's his name? I hope he's not watching right now. Sheldon Yakiwchuk. So Sheldon, you guys would know him as like a lot of you would probably know Sheldon from Twitter if you're on Twitter. He does a lot of Substacks during COVID. He was like the one kind of showing all the data for everything COVID. So he's coming on Friday. And then next week, I just was chatting with Viva Frey about the Tate brothers and stuff. And anyway, so he agreed to come on my show next week. So Viva Frey will be coming on the show. Okay, Hitchhiker asked me to move my mic around to see if it's doing it. Well, like I was like pushing this in. I wonder if when I touch it, if it does it then. We had changed a cable and it seemed to have stopped. Is it like doing it right now? And I'm wondering if I have the video with the sound here open, if it does it then. And usually I don't talk when the videos are playing, so maybe it wasn't doing it as much. But yeah, so Viva Frey will be coming not next week, the week after. And I don't know who else. I'm working on it. I'm working on getting some big guests. I'd like to get Charlie Kirk to come on. Okay, it did it. I'll switch to my MacBook because I need to get a handle on this because maybe you guys are still watching, but some people it might bother them so much they'll stop watching. I know I'm one of those people. If the sound's not perfect or if I hear like a lot of mouth noise, like swallowing and almost like chewing noise, I can't watch. So, but no noise when I move it. So, okay, so it's probably when I'm doing things with the screens because I was moving the video screen. Like, let's see, I'm just going to test it. If I put ChatGPT in there, I'm going to see if it does it. If I type, if it does it then. Or actually, I forgot to put my phone on airplane mode. See if that fixes it. Usually I do. Let's see if it works now. I've got it on airplane mode. Is it doing it? Anyways, If you're not following me already on Twitter, TikTok, no noise. So it might have been the airplane mode. I forgot to do that this morning before I started. I need a list with like, it's not doing it. So I need a list with like sticky notes of things to do before I start the show. It was the phone then. The phone interferes with it. So because it was in an airplane mode. So that must be what it was. Okay, so I'll make sure to have that turned on tomorrow. Not tomorrow. There's no show tomorrow. But yeah, if you don't follow me already, follow me on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, TikTok. I'm going to be posting short clips on there. It's if you search my handle, Nadine Gnes, it's the same handle for every one of those. It's still doing it still. Okay, so it's not that. It must be just too much to process. I bet that's what it is. I'll switch it up to my MacBook Pro that has like 64 gigabytes of RAM. So or 48, so it should be able to handle it. It's like 3 times the size of that tower. So I'll see if I can switch it on the weekend. I should have enough time. It's not my phone. No, it's not. I had people from Blaze Media try to give me some help because I was showing them what the sound guys and the tech guys with Blaze Media were trying to problem solve with me. And I'm going to rewatch that. I know what it sounds like. I've seen it in some of the other episodes. We just don't know what's causing it. Even Blaze Media, they're like, well, I think it's like for when you're using OBS and using StreamYard, it's just too much because OBS is trying to send the sound to StreamYard, but StreamYard will not take in the sound, only the image. And I've muted all the sounds, like blocked all the sound in OBS, but I don't know why it's still doing it. And I've got the most expensive mic cable, and I've switched the different cables, and it's not in the mic. It's not from the mic to Focusrite, which is like the sound mixer. It's not there because then I would hear it here. I can hear my own voice here, and I don't hear it. So it's not this. It's not there. It's from that to the actual computer. From the sound mixer to the computer. That's where it does it. But anyways, if you don't follow me already, do so. I'm going to let you guys go. I have to run to bring my son's soccer stuff to the city. Yeah, it might be a buffering issue. And I got to do that. And I have another meeting at 4. So I will let you guys go. And I will see you potentially on Monday. Probably Monday. I might just come in and do a short episode too. And then, so next week, I'm working on a website too, so I can post which guests I'm having on like a calendar so people can pop in just when I have the guests too, if they prefer. So I'm going to be doing that. But again, so much work. All right. See you guys. Have a good weekend. Again, pray for the US in the next few days.